Okay, I think we're going. So my name's Jeff, and I do marketing at Source Audio. And okay, this is the first time I've done this sort of thing, so maybe a little shaky, but you know, hopefully we'll have a good time. So just got to say thanks to everybody at Bax for inviting us to do this thing, and you know, talk to all the people viewing, talk a little bit about Source Audio effects. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Hopefully, you know, we can learn a little bit about Source Audio, and hopefully it will be fun. So I'm going to start with just a little history lesson, and feel free to drop in questions. I'll check periodically the YouTube feed to see if anybody has questions. So when you see me do that, feel free to send in your questions then, and we'll try and make everything run smoothly. Like I said, it's a new experience for me, so let's have fun. Okay, so let's do a little Source Audio history lesson. So the company actually started back in 2006, and it was started by Jesse and Roger. Roger is the president, and Jesse is the chief technical officer. And they worked for a company called Analog Devices out of the Boston area. We're located in Boston, Massachusetts, just north of it. So anyways, Analog Devices makes digital signal processing chips. A lot of the big pedal companies use the chips, the DSP chips. Strymon uses it, Line 6, Maris, and we use them. So Jesse had been working on this with the Sigma DSP. That's the one we use. It's a very powerful 56-bit processor, very complex, very efficient. So he and Roger thought that this would be a great chip for guitar pedals, and they're both musicians, so they kind of jumped off and started their own company. Source Audio was born. So another thing that Jesse had been doing is working with accelerometer technology. Now, accelerometers are it's a little device that sort of senses your motion, and you can, you know, use it to control other parameters or other things. It's used in phones. So if you tip your phone sideways, it'll, you know, flip the screen over. That's an accelerometer. The example we always use is the old Nintendo Wii's, where you use the controllers to control video game people. So we also use the accelerometer. So Jesse got the idea to put one in a ring and use it to control effects. So basically this is like a expression pedal in a ring. So I'm just gonna give you a quick example of what it can do. Hopefully I'm in tune here. So here we go, watch. So what I'm doing here is just using the ring to control a phaser modulation. Kind of fun. I got it set up for a more aggressive sound with our synthesizer, so you can do. Yeah, so that is Hot Hand. And we had some success with this ring for a while. Our friend Nathan Navarro, who is a great bass player, he had a band in Berkeley who covered a Skrillex song, and he used the Hot Hand to create that dubstep wobble. And they put up a video. It went viral, like millions of views. It was awesome. And, you know, the Hot Hand was very prominently displayed. So we sold a decent amount of them to a lot of bass players. But with guitar players, I don't know. It never really caught on. Still a, you know, a cult classic, liked by a lot of people. But it just sort of sent a message that Source Audio does things a little differently. You know, we are sort of known for, I don't know, thinking outside of the box, if I may use a very cliche expression. So the thing is, the hot hand controls sound, but it does not create sound. So we knew we wanted to do pedals as well. So that's where Bob Chidlaw comes into the story. Bob Chidlaw worked at Kurzweil synthesizers back in the 80s and 90s. He was a big part of the first sampling keyboard. So basically, like, you hit a key on your keyboard and it triggers a recorded piano key or a trumpet note or whatever it is. So just big music technology at the time. But Kurzweil, they sold the company at one point, and like those things often go, Bob was not happy, left the company, so he was available to work at Source Audio, and he had also consulted at Analog Devices. So Bob develops all the sounds. You know, I just think he's one of the premier sound designers in the industry. We don't use any third-party reverb DSP. We write it all ourselves. Bob, when I say we, I mean Bob writes it. So in 2006, Source Audio came onto the scene, and we sort of stumbled a little bit for a little while. We released some pedals like this one, the Soundblocks Pro Multi-Wave Distortion. Again, popular with bass players, didn't really catch on with guitar players. Our stuff always sounded great, but there were certain issues with this pedal, mainly the looks. I think a lot of people it didn't resonate with them. Just doesn't look like a traditional pedal, which it is not. And then we tried again with a smaller version. That's a plastic housing. This is a metal housing. Still, there were issues. Mono inputs and outputs, only 2 foot switches. There's actually 20 different distortion sounds in here, but there's only 2 presets, so that was maybe an issue. So yeah, so it wasn't until around 2014 that we released the Nemesis Delay. And this was our first big selling pedal, especially with guitar players. Just a great pedal. It's got some awesome sounding vintage delay sounds, like tape delays, noise. There's an echoplex sound in there. There's oil can delay. It also has more contemporary stuff like some pitch shifting. There's reverse delays. So just fun pedal. And this introduced, let me move on here. This introduced our concept of nested complexity. So let me just explain what that is. So you pull this pedal out of the box, plug it in, works just like a traditional stomp box. I mean, you select your delay type, you've got all the knobs you would expect to see, a time knob, a feedback knob, modulation, all that stuff. 8 presets. So, in addition to this, we also have what is called the Neuro Desktop Editor and Neuro Mobile App. Now that allows you to go in, you know, if there's great sounds just on the pedal, but if you want to dive in and really tweak stuff, it's basically like going in and adding another 20 knobs to this box. So you can really just fine tune everything, download it to the pedal, and basically create the perfect pedal for you. So yeah, the 1 series. So let me just talk quickly about what the 1 series is. I'm going to go over to my PowerPoint display here. So 1 series comes in 2 sizes. There is this smaller size, which has 1 foot switch. It's got 6 presets, you know, with the toggle switches. There's 3 key sounds on the top, like for instance, this True Spring has 3 different types of spring reverb. It's got like a classic amp spring reverb. It's also got a classic outboard spring reverb. It also runs tremolo. So compact pedal, but very powerful. And it's also got the deep editing abilities of the Neuro editor. So you can get in there and just really create your perfect pedal. Neuro also has community presets. So what you can do is you can go in, dial a sound, you can save it to your pedal or to your own personal library, or you can share it with the Neuro community. And conversely, people in the Neuro community can go and download anybody's sound that anybody's published. So it's a real communal kind of effort to build one of the biggest sound libraries in existence. All the 1 series pedals are stereo input and output. There's flexible different routing. You can go mono to stereo. You can do things like run 2 different effects out of each output. These pedals work with an external tap tempo switch. They work with an expression pedal, and they're fully MIDI compatible. So we have a product called the Neuro Hub, which costs about $99 US, and you can plug up to 5 of our pedals into that thing, and you can just pull up, you send it one MIDI PC message and change the settings of all the pedals. So it's just a multi-effects, sort of a modular approach to multi-effects. So there's just a few examples of our 1 series pedal, the Kingmaker. I'm going to show you some of these in just a few. And we also have our big 1 series pedals. The Nemesis Delay is a prime example. 2 foot switches, which can do a multitude of things. Obviously, it turns it on and off. You can also do tap tempo with that. You can do things like with our Ventress, you can do a freeze function where you hold the foot switch down and it sustains a reverb trail, and you can then play over top of that reverb trail. The 1 series is also, or the big boxes are also fully MIDI capable. You can see they have a dedicated MIDI input and through. There is a USB port. You can use that for updating the pedal, or you can send MIDI messages through it with MIDI compliant devices. Okay, so let's go back. Here I am again. Okay, where am I? So let's talk about the Ventress dual reverb. Okay, this pedal was the first pedal that we introduced dual DSP architecture. So that means there's 2 chips in there. We originally wanted to do this because people were requesting spillover, which means when you move from one preset to the next, it doesn't cut off the reverb trail abruptly. It sort of naturally decays as the other one, as your second reverb or preset is brought up. But it also gives us far more processing power. So we can just like really go into detail with all of the different reverb types. Excuse me. And one of my favorite things about it is that you can run 2 reverbs at the same time. So let me just jump in to the Ventress. I've got my board over here. You can't really see it. Sorry about that. But so this is an example of our spring reverb. So yeah, just a very nice spring reverb. It's funny, spring reverb is it's an old technology, in amplifiers. Basically, it's just sends your guitar signal into a physical spring, like a spring, size on a pen, something like that, and it just you're hearing the sound of your guitar going through a spring. It sounds like reverb. So relatively easy to do in the analog world, very hard to do in a pedal. And I don't know, Bob is just a master. The amount of A/B testing and work that went into creating just this algorithm was huge, and I think it sets the standard for what spring reverb is in pedals. You can just, I don't know. you can just hear that sort of metally spring sound. I love it. So that is just an example of the power of the processing and the skill of Bob Chidlaw. So let's move on to another one. So this is a dual reverb effect. And I'm going to go into the Neuro desktop editor right now and show you what that's all about. I've been talking about Neuro, but let's take a look at it. So, okay, where am I? Like I said, I'm still learning how to work the software. There we go. There it is. All right, okay. Knew I was going to forget something. So, I didn't plug my computer into the Ventress. So, okay, pulling up this Ventress Reverb. All right, so you can see, you know, the pedal has 6 knobs, but look at all these controls that are in the Neuro editor. It's a lot. So, you see we've got Reverb Engine A, and if I scroll down here, we've got Reverb Engine B. So basically, that's just 2 completely separate pedals almost. You see if I hit this Reverb Engine thing, I've got choice of all these different reverb sounds. Now there's a few, you know, there's all the 12 that are on the center dial, but there's also some additional reverb sounds. There's an outboard spring sound, which is great for surf guitar. There's also something called Metal Box, which is Bob's own creation. It's the sound of your guitar in a storage container. But I'm just combining 2 rooms, and basically I have one setup. Let me go back to just the view of me. I've got one setup as just a tight reverb, and the other one as a more wide open space with some pitch modulation. So okay, so complex room. I'm going to show you both of the reverbs individually, and then I'll put them together so you can hear what it sounds like. So the first one is just a tight room. So you hear those reverb reflections instantly. Now if I go over to Reverb B, I have the pre-delay cranked up a little bit. Or there's what pre-delay is it creates a space between your dry signal and your first reverb reflection. So it's almost like the sound of your guitar bouncing off a far wall. So you're going to hear a distinct difference between when I hit the note and the first reflection. So cool sound. So now let's combine them, and then you're going to hear both the early reflections and the later reflection. And I can do things like once I go into dual mode, my pedal becomes like a little mixer. I can control the level of the dry signal, and I can control the 2 reverbs individually. So you can hear if I want to crank up the late reflection. Becomes far more obvious. I can pull it down and it becomes much more subtle. Pull it down even more. Very cool. Okay, so that is an example of a dual reverb. Let me show you one more. So this is called Saw Octaves. It was a preset created by another user. This is the great thing with these pedals is when you get them, you can access presets from all kinds of people. We're going to go more into that a little bit later. So let me go back into the Neuro editor. Okay. So this one uses 2 Shimmer engines. And with our shimmers, you can select from a whole collection of pitch intervals. So you can see, here's my Engine B shimmer. I I've got all these different intervals to choose from, third, seconds, fifths, whatever. So I've got this one set to an octave down. So what this effect is two shimmers, one an octave up and one an octave down. So here's what that sounds like. It's almost like church organ. So let me show you the two individually again. So here is a, that's just the octave up. Kind of a traditional shimmer. And over on the other side is the octave down. Quite dark. And now we put them together. Church organ sound. Okay, so now let me tell you about the Collider Delay+Reverb. This is actually our best selling pedal. So we knew we had a really great thing going with the Ventress and the Nemesis. Just super powerful pedal for just, you know, people who love their reverb, love their delay. But we thought it might be cool to do a more simplified delay reverb pedal, kind of combine. I always refer to this as a greatest hits pedal, and I've got this special white knob design just because this is what's in my house. Usually it has black knobs. I'm in my basement, by the way. We're still sort of in COVID mode, so here I am, one-man show. So usually it has black knobs, but anyways, we took sort of the most essential delay sounds from the Nemesis Delay, the most essential reverb sounds from the Ventress, and put them into this pedal. So you can see you've got five delay sounds, 7 reverb sounds. This switch turns the delay on and off. This switch turns the reverb on and off. Very simple. There's a toggle switch. You switch it over to tape or to delay. All of the knobs control your delay effect. You turn it over to reverb, all the knobs control the reverb effect. It's just super simple. You can use the Neuro app with it, but it's not really necessary because pretty much everything you need is right on the face of the pedal. So let me just show you a couple of sounds. This is a basic sound, just combining a tape delay and a reverb. Just a great sound. Now you can see if I want to turn my reverb off, I just hit the switch, and then it's just... And then I can turn my delay off, turn my reverb on. Turn it back on. Very cool. So, let me show you, I've got a couple of other fun presets in the Collider. So, you can also, in addition to running a delay and a reverb at the same time, by default it runs, the signal path is delay into reverb. You can also do things like maybe switch the order, so put a reverb in front of a delay. You can run the two things in parallel. So rather than like having two, you know, the same, running in series is like having a delay pedal running into a separate reverb pedal. Running in parallel means that they're both sort of side by side, reacting to the same input signal and just being mixed together to one sound. But what I can also do is run two delays or two reverbs at the same time. So I've got this set up as a dual delay effect. And it is inspired by the Edge, of course. So I've got one delay set to quarter notes, the other one set to dotted eighths. And I've actually got them split up. You can't tell, but I'm running a stereo rig. I've got my quarter notes going to one amp, my dotted eighths going to the other amp. So I'm going to turn off the dotted eighth and quarter notes. Now, as I add my dotted eighths, you're going to get that like bump, ba-dum, bump, ba-bump, bamp kind of thing. Hopefully you can hear that second amp. It's just being picked up by the vocal mic. But yeah, so that's just the classic. Great sound. Moving on. Here's another fun two reverb sound. Dual reverb sound. So this one I've got a swell reverb, which just, you know, it swells the volume on both your dry signal and your reverb signal. And I've got that feeding into a shimmer delay. So I'm going to show you. So this is the swell. And then over here is the shimmer. So now, if I turn them both on, you get this real angelic yeah, that's just a beautiful combination for the ambient guitar players out there. So I tell you what, I haven't gone for questions. This is kind of a major break. So if anybody has questions, feel free to pop them up there. You can hear the second amp. Very good. Jeffrey Live, more fun. Happy to answer your questions if you want. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions yet, but feel free to pop them up there if you want to. So let's move on. What do I have next here? Okay, so now we're going to get into the pedal that really just busted open our the Neuro desktop editor. It's just immensely powerful, this pedal. It's the C4 Synth. I don't think you're going to find a more flexible synthesizer pedal out there. The editor is just amazing. It's basically our modular synth in a box. So totally inspired by, you know, vintage analog modular synths. And the Neuro editor is kind of a thing of beauty. Just so many sounds available. Let me just turn it on, give you a quick. Oop. So here we go. So this is a preset created by my friend Nathan Navarro. I talked about him earlier. He's the guy who got the hot hand ring going, but it was inspired by that Daft Punk song, "Da Funk." So I'm going to go over to the Neuro editor and show you what is going on. So let me just plug into that pedal, connect the computer. computer. Okay, so let's get over here, turn that off, pull up the synthesizer. Okay, so there is just a lot of things in here that you can explore and have fun with. So it's called the C4 because of Chidlaw, Bob Chidlaw, C, and because it's got 4 voices, that's the 4. So these blue blocks here, each of them represents one of the voices. And what I mean by voices is you can set up different sounds. Now you see if I hit this drop down, I can do polyphonic pitch shifting, monophonic pitch shifting. I've also got these pure synthesizer oscillators. And they're monophonic, so that means when you're using a synthesizer oscillator, you can only play one note at a time. But this particular preset is using 3 voices. You can see it's got, I've got voice 2 turned on, voice 3 turned on, voice 4 turned on. And it's using 2 saw waves and 1 square wave. Now I'm going to break this sound down so that you can hear the individual pieces. So I'm going to turn off voice 2, turn off voice 4. So voice 3 is just an octave down. So it's pretty simple. Just a saw wave. If I turn that sound off, turn on voice 4, then I'm getting just the octave up. If I go over to voice 2, turn that on, then I'm getting the 5th. So let's build this thing back up. Octave. Octave down with an octave up. And add the 5th for the complete sound. Very cool. And let's just bang through a couple of fun sounds in here. This is this one uses 2 saw waves and 2 square waves. Fun sounds. Now the next one is a cool one. It actually uses the sequencer. So if I scroll down here, you can see there's these 2 sequencers, and I can program basically a note pattern. I can use up to 16 steps if I want to turn that on. And to change the notes, I just grab these bars, slide them up or down semitones. But I'm going to stick with the 8-step pattern. And yeah, let me move over to my webcam and I'll show you. So it's basically, I love this because, you know, I don't really have to know how to play guitar, which is always helpful for me. So you can see. And you can have fun with the controls, so let me mess with it. It's just moving the filter. Mess with the speed. Yeah, well, I could do that all day, but I'll spare you. There's another fun one called Pony. Love that one. So I can also do things like, let's go back to the Neuro. I said that the synthesizer oscillators are all monophonic, but you can do cool polyphonic sounds. So this effect is using the polyphonic pitch. It's got one set to an octave down and another set to an octave up. It's also just got a dry signal going on, which has a filter applied to it. So you can see down here in these green blocks, there's distortion and there's also filtering. You can see there's a whole bunch of different filters that you can apply to any of the sounds. So let me just show you. This is a nice example of a polyphonic guitar. Yeah, that's a really fun sound. So let me just check the YouTube feed, see if there's any questions. Somebody has the C4. What is an easy guide to create a sound? You can go to our website, sourceaudio.net, and there's a guy, Zach Reiser, who created a really thorough tour of the Neuro desktop editor for the C4. Yeah, so that's a great way. If you're looking to really learn what's going on, I would suggest that. We also do some tutorials. We recently released our Ultrawaves, which are also great with Neuro Editor. Just it's a sound laboratory. So we've got some tutorials on how to use that. But yeah, there's lots of resources on the website. Okay. So let's go back. Okay, where am I here? Let's go back to my webcam. Actually, let's see if we can find some cool presets. I'll show you how to grab presets from the Neuro feed. Now this is a great way to learn how to create presets. Sometimes I will, everybody will go and find a preset that's in the, in the cloud, a published preset. See, if I click on cloud, then you can see we've got this whole magnificent library of presets that people have created. And we are just at about 5,000 presets. So, like I said, it's fun to create presets, but it's also a ton of fun to just pull up presets and, experiment and see what's going on out there as far as presets go. So this is one somebody published recently called Gig'em Wonky Animal. I'm not sure what that means, but let's hear what it sounds like. I actually messed with this last night and it sounds pretty wild. Yeah, that's a wild one. Gig'em Wonky Animal. I like it. So this guy's using all four voices. I see 2 square waves, 2 saw waves. He's also using the sequencer. You can see down here he's got some cool patterns set up. And you can see if I want to just like mess with these patterns, I can do that. Now I'm just kind of flying blind here, but let's see what this sounds like. I bet it will sound very different. Wow, is he running? Okay. We're getting a little crazy. Should we try one more just to see what's going on? Welcome to Wolf Records. Sometimes I get a little scared. That's weird. Taurus. Sounds like a good bass effect. The bass players love the C4. So you can hear that's not really responding very well to the pitch detection, probably because it's tuned for a bass. But if I go down here to pitch detector, I can really tweak this thing to work better with guitar. I may want to crank the input. So a simple thing like that, and I'm betting, yeah, I'm not having those glitches anymore just because. So I'm guessing that was inspired by a Moog Taurus pedal. So, like I said, if I wanted to, I can go back to my device and I can save that sound. I can just hit save as, call it Taurus, pick a slot, and save it. So now it's on my pedal. You can see I can select presets from here. This is there's my Taurus sound. And there's a gingham animal monkey, whatever that was called. Okay, so now let's move on to the EQ2. So this is another one of our best-selling pedals. I'm not going to do sound examples of this because it's an EQ, so it's kind of hard to really translate what's happening, over the internet. But let me just explain what it is, because it's just a super useful pedal. David Gilmour uses one of these, which just, oh, I was thrilled. So it's a programmable EQ. So it works as both a graphic and a parametric EQ. So what you can do is save up to 128 different EQ curves, which can be engaged with MIDI messages. It's got dedicated MIDI in and MIDI through. Of course, it's got the USB on the top, so you can control it with certain MIDI controllers, or your computer through the USB port. And within each of these presets, there's actually 2 EQs. So you could do something like have a preset where you've got one EQ curve going to one amp and a different EQ curve going to another amp. You can run them like that. You can also run them in series, one EQ into another. I've heard of guys, Pete Thorne did a video recently, and he actually set it up so he had his guitar going in, the input coming out of the output. He's got one EQ, running through one EQ curve, going into the input of his amp, and then out the effects loop into input 2, out of output 2, into the effects return. So he's basically got different EQ curves before and after the amplifier. So just super powerful. You can see you can use it with MIDI, but you can also just use it as a standalone pedal. You hold down the thing, it scrolls through the 8 different presets, and it's also got a tuner built in, which is handy. So and it's a pretty good tuner. You get rid of save some space in your board. Tune with the old EQ2. Killer pedal. Is there anything else I'm forgetting in here? Yeah, the parametric EQ. Let me show you. Let me go into the Neuro Editor and show you what you can do with the EQ, because it's pretty great. I just love the display. So So just pull that up and you can see we've got our EQ curve. And I can change it. This is just a parametric setting. I can drag these sliders. I can also make parametric EQs. So parametric just means, you know, with a graphic equalizer, all the bandwidths are pretty similar width. But with a parametric EQ, I can do things like make the Q, which is called, skinnier. So you can see I'm just affecting a much smaller area in the frequency. I can also move the frequency band up or down the frequency spectrum. So yeah, it just does that. And if I want to get into splitting the EQ and running two different EQ curves at the same time, I can do that. Right now you're seeing the blue line is representing the EQ assigned to output number 2, and the red is assigned to the EQ going to output number 1. So I just wanted to quickly show you that because that is a super fun and just very powerful editing tool. So let's go back. Okay, here I am. I wanted to talk a little bit about families of effects. Actually, let me go and see if there's any questions. Can you add wah with it? Okay. I'm just not sure what we're adding wah to. I mean, you can run a wah into any of these pedals. You can certainly create wah effects. I mean, the C4 synth, you can run an expression pedal into it, and there is actually a specific wah-inspired filter that you know, you can basically create your own wah with the C4. Just run an expression pedal into it and control that filter with an expression pedal, and that's basically a wah. So wait, can you make wah-wah of it with an expression pedal added to the... Yes! You can't do it with the EQ1. Oh yes, the EQ2. Yeah, there's a preset in there. I actually don't have it hooked up, but we created a preset back in the early days. Since it's a parametric EQ, you are able to move filters or sweep filters back and forth. So that's essentially what a wah does. I mean, it's more complex than that. We actually have it set up so that it's sort of, with a wah, the filter kind of, as it moves up the frequency spectrum, the peak gets a little higher. So it was quite a feat to get the wah sounding, but it's a pretty good sounding wah. If you go over to Pete Thorne's demo of the EQ2, or Andy Martin's demo, or our demo of the EQ2, they all have examples of the EQ2 being used as a wah type effect. It's a good sound, and like I said, you know, if you don't use too much wah, it's I don't know. If I was Slash, I probably wouldn't use this. You know, I'd probably stick with my wah. But if you just want to get some cool, you know, you have one song where you want some wah, that'll do the job for sure. It sounds great. Okay, what's next here? Okay, we're going to talk about families of pedals. So this is sort of a secret, not really a secret. It seems like it's a secret because so many people don't really know that this is a fact, but we in all of our marketing, we talk about it. On the website, we talk about the fact that our Mercury Flanger, Gemini Chorus, which I have on my board, we also have a Lunar Phaser, 3 different pedals that are all essentially the same pedal. They just have a different paint job. The Mercury Flanger has 3 different kinds of, it comes with 3 kinds of flanger by default on the toggle switch. But if I wanted to, I could go into the Neuro editor and upload a phaser sound from the Lunar Phaser and put it in one of these toggle switch positions. So when you buy any of these pedals, you're essentially buying a multi-modulation pedal. I can show you, I've got my, sorry, I'm just banging through presets here. I've got my chorus pedal hooked up, and I'm just going to quickly show you all the different sounds that I'm getting just out of the chorus pedal. So it also has a tremolo parameter, so I can create tremolo type effects. Let's move over to a chorus. What else? Flanger. Flanger, through zero flanger. Okay, I've got a, this uses the a dual voiced chorus with a little bit of tremolo mixed in to give you sort of a Leslie sound. I've also got univibe sounds. Phaser. Okay, so that's just out of, from the Gemini chorus, so just super flexible pedal. Another family is our overdrive and distortion pedals. I've got the LA Lady on my board, but the LA Lady is the same pedal as our Kingmaker Fuzz and Aftershock bass distortion. So I'll show you the editor. Okay, where am I? Plugging and unplugging. My life is basically plugging and unplugging cables and trying to untangle cables. At least I feel like that's what my life is. So let me just go over to the Neuro editor and show you the interface for the LA Lady. Turn that off. Okay, so here's the overdrive. So this first one, I've got a Very Screamer, which I think is based on the Nobles, kind of like a Tube Screamer type effect, but it was inspired by that. But you can see, let me go down here. Just look at all the different drive types. So that's where these so basically, why do we have three pedals that are the same pedal? We wanted to be able to, for some people who don't want to deal with the Neuro editor, maybe they just want a good overdrive pedal or a good fuzz pedal. We wanted to just put a pedal out that, gave you three great fuzz sounds out of the box. Just works like a traditional fuzz. You switch over to your big muff sound, dial it in, there you go. But if you want to, you can explore all of these different sounds. You can see there's sounds inspired by a Klon, there's Octavia sounds, there's Tone Bender sounds, there's Boss DS1 sounds, OCD sounds, Rat sounds, yeah, all that stuff. Let me just, I'm going to bang through a couple of these sounds. So this is the Nobles. All right, here's a big muff sound. back to the webcam. DS1, Boss, Distortion 1. Trying to figure out some riffs here to play. I like that one. Here's my, this is a Klon sound, so very transparent. That one. Octavia. So this is just I love this because it almost seems less shrill than a real Octavia, but it just, you get that super singing kind of quality. OCD. It goes. So yeah, those are all from one pedal. Lots of flexibility. So let's move on to our latest pedal. And the latest one is another family. The family of Ultrawave. So we've got a bass version, and a guitar version. Green for bass, blue for guitar. Bass players love this. My man Nathan Navarro, who I've talked about a few times, he dialed in the 6 sounds that come by default with this thing, and he was a big consultant on the development of this thing. Source Audio has always really listened to bass players. You know, Nathan worked at our company for a few years after he had done that Skrillex video, the big viral one. We still consult with him. He helps us with videos. But check out Nathan's demo of the Ultrawave. It's killer. He's also on our in-house demo. But let me just explain to you what the Ultrawave is. So I'm going to plug into it. So the Ultrawave, what it does is split your guitar into multiple frequency bands. Okay? So you can see down here, I'm going to pull up a this preset. So we've got 10 different drive controls. So it splits the guitar, in this case, into 10 separate frequency bands. Each of those bands has its own drive control. Also, right over here, each of these bands, you can control the output level of each frequency. So, you know, for this sound, that's not it. This is it. So it just creates, it's a really thick sound, creates these really rich harmonics. And let me just show you how it sounds as I manipulate the different drive levels. So yeah, you can really just carve out any sound that you want. There's also a bunch of different drive types. So this is based on a so the Diode Distortion. So that's basically like a dual rectifier inspired sound. So it's got traditional sounds like basic distortion, which is sort of like a tube inspired sound, but there's also a type of distortion called foldback, which is a type of distortion used in synthesizers quite a bit. And let me show you. It creates a cool octave sound as well. So that's cool. I've also got this, where's my multiple foldback? Okay. And I love foldback because as you hold a note, it kind of transforms. It almost sounds like a synthesizer. Cool sound. So 10 band, you also, if you've got your guitar signal split into 10 frequency bands, you can also apply separate tremolos to each of those frequency bands. It's the same tremolo, but you're just offsetting the pattern. So let me just show you. So this is a 10 band tremolo. And it almost sounds like a step sequencer. So that's just fun. And here's one of my favorite things about this pedal. This LFO block down here has an attack and release function, so I can control the shape of the LFO and really just dial in something different. So you'll see this little black and red monitor, you'll see the shape change, and you're also going to hear it changing as I adjust the release and the on time and the attack control. So here goes. So that's fun. You can play with that for a long time. I like to combine some of the more exotic sounding distortions with multiband tremolo, and I get this kind of a thing. So what's happening there is I'm using that foldback distortion, which, like I said before, as your note decays, sometimes it brings in more high frequencies and it just transforms the note. So you combine that with the multiband tremolo and it's a great effect. Okay, and one last thing I want to show you is the compressor. So this thing has a compressor module that is just, I don't know, I don't think you're going to find something more powerful in a pedal. And if you want, you can turn off all the other drives and such and just use the compressor. So this. trying to play funk guitar. Sorry about that. So check this out. It's got this great monitor, and you can see that little ball bouncing. That gives you an idea what's happening here. So on the right side, you've got your output level, or what is it? The vertical, up and down, is displaying your output level, and the horizontal across the bottom is displaying your input level. So you can see when there's no input level, the little ball is all the way to the left, but if I hit a note, it goes all the way to the right. But you can see how I can use the threshold controls to adjust my compression. So obviously if I turn the threshold down, turn the ratio up, that is like a ton of compression to the point you can barely hear it. But luckily I have makeup gain or output gain, so I can crank that up. So, and like I said, you could use just this if you wanted, and you can come down here and you can, there's a knob assign box. So you could assign, you know, knobs to your compressor controls. Like you could assign a knob to your ratio, your threshold, your attack and release. And it's just a great sounding compressor. We're really winning over a lot of bass players because, you know, bass players love their compression, and you're just not going to find something more powerful than this in a pedal. So, okay, let me go back to just me. So, that is basically it. I hope I didn't forget anything. Let me just check in with the questions, see if anybody's got any questions. Just checking back. Seems like we're done here. So again, thanks everybody at Bax. Thanks to anybody who tuned in. It was a pleasure. Hope you learned something about our pedals. Hope they sound cool. Hope you guys had fun. Take care, and we'll see you next time, hopefully. Bye-bye.